The train slowed to a dusty halt under the blazing midday sun, the wheels screeching against the metal tracks as it came to a stop at the small town of Red Willow. Emily Thornton clutched her trunk tightly, heart hammering in her chest. She had traveled over 1,000 miles, leaving behind a small home in Pennsylvania for a future she barely dared to imagine. Her letters had promised a fresh start, a life beside a man she had never seen, yet she couldn't turn back now. Not after everything her family had endured. She stepped onto the platform, the heat from the wooden planks warming her boots. The station was nearly empty, save for a few men lounging in the shade, watching the world drift by, and a boy pulling a wagon full of goods. Emily's eyes scanned for the man who had written so many letters, whose words had filled her nights with dreams of quiet mornings and a warm home. But there was no one. Her stomach sank. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times, a tall, broad-shouldered man tipping his hat, a smile lighting his face. But as the minutes passed, and the sun beat down mercilessly, she realized that sometimes imagination wasn't enough. "Miss Thornton?" A voice called, rough yet careful. Emily turned sharply to find a man leaning against a wooden post. He was tall, dark-haired, with sleeves rolled up to reveal arms strong from labor. His hat shadowed his face, but she could see the curiosity, and something gentler, shining in his brown eyes. "That's me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Jonah Parker," he said, straightening. "I was sent to meet you. Looks like the letters got a little ahead of me." Emily swallowed, nerves twisting her stomach. I didn't know anyone would meet me. I just assumed I'd find the family ranch, and..." She stopped herself, realizing how absurd it sounded. Thank you." Jonah tipped his hat and gave a small, awkward smile. "Well, can't very well let a lady wander into Red Willow alone. You ready to head out?" The ride to the Parker Ranch was a bumpy one, along a dusty trail lined with wildflowers swaying in the afternoon breeze. Emily clutched the sides of the wagon, peering out at the endless plains, and tried not to let the fear of the unknown swallow her whole. She had always been careful, cautious, a girl who measured each step before taking it. But here, she had no choice. Jonah spoke little, letting the silence stretch between them. But there was a comfort in it, a sense that perhaps not every moment needed words. When she dared to glance at him, she caught him studying the horizon rather than her, as though he, too, were sizing up the unknown. The Parker Ranch came into view, a sprawling homestead with red barns and grazing horses. The air smelled faintly of hay, leather, and something earthy and warm. Emily's heart stuttered at the sight, a mix of relief and anxiety twisting within her. This was it. The life she had signed up for without fully knowing what it would mean. Jonah led her inside, introducing her to the housekeeper, Mrs. Fields, who greeted her with a warm, motherly smile. "You must be tired, dear," she said, fussing over Emily's coat and hat. "Dinner will be ready in an hour. You can rest before then." Emily nodded, following Jonah to a small guest room. The room was modest but comfortable, with a window that framed the setting sun perfectly. She sat on the edge of the bed, trunk at her feet, and allowed herself a moment to breathe. "I'll be down for dinner in a bit," she called. Jonah nodded from the doorway, his hands in his pockets, and left without another word. That evening, dinner was a quiet affair. Jonah's family, his widowed mother and younger siblings, greeted Emily with polite curiosity. She was nervous, fumbling with her fork, trying to smile and make conversation. But every glance she stole at Jonah left her tongue-tied. There was something in him, a quiet strength and calmness, that made her feel both exposed and safe. After dinner, Jonah helped her carry a few of her things to her room. She realized, with a pang, that she felt strangely tethered to him, as if a single gesture or word could undo the balance she had carefully built around herself. Days passed, and Emily tried to settle into life at the ranch. She helped Mrs. Fields in the kitchen, tended to the horses, and learned the routines of the land. But something always held her back, a hesitation, a shadow of doubt. She had always been independent, a girl who had made her own way. And yet, she couldn't deny the growing connection she felt to Jonah Parker, a man whose silence often spoke louder than words. One evening, after a long day of work, she found Jonah on the porch, strumming a guitar. He looked up as she approached, and for a moment, the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. "Emily," he said, his voice low. "You've been quiet lately. Is everything all right?" She hesitated, searching for the right words. I don't know if I can do this," she admitted finally. "I'm not used to this, to depending on someone." Jonah set the guitar aside and walked closer. "It's not about depending, Emily. It's about trusting. We can build something together, but only if you let me in." Her heart raced. She wanted to step back, to retreat into the safety of solitude, but there was a steadiness in his gaze that made her pause. Tentatively, she extended her hand. Jonah smiled, taking it gently in his own. "That's all it takes," he said. "One step, one hand, one heart willing to trust." And just like that, the walls Emily had built around herself began to crumble. From that moment, life on the ranch became a dance between them, shared meals, quiet conversations, and the slow, steady rhythm of two people learning to lean on one another. Jonah showed her the ropes of ranch life, how to ride the horses across the open plains, mend a fence, and coax a stubborn steer back into line. Emily, in turn, brought a spark of order and warmth to the household. Her letters arriving daily for friends back east now filled with stories of small victories, laughter, and the slow blooming of love. One afternoon, as a spring storm rolled across the prairie, Emily found herself stranded in the barn with a frightened colt. The rain pelted against the tin roof, wind whipping hay into her face. Panic rose in her chest, but then she felt a familiar presence. Jonah appeared at the doorway, coat flapping in the wind. "Need some help?" he called, voice steady over the storm. Emily laughed, drenched and wild-eyed. "I can't let go! He's terrified!" "Then don't," Jonah said calmly, stepping closer. "I've got you. I've got him. We'll get through this together." And together, they calmed the colt, hearts racing in tandem as the storm raged outside. When the rain finally let up, they stepped into the clearing, mud squishing underfoot, hands still entwined. It was in that moment, Emily understood something she had not dared to admit. She couldn't do this alone, nor did she want to. Her letters, her dreams, even the vast plains that stretched endlessly before her, none of it would have mattered without Jonah Parker at her side. Weeks turned into months, and with every sunrise and sunset, their bond deepened. The ranch thrived, the house filled with laughter, and Emily finally allowed herself to step down from the pedestal of independence she had clung to so fiercely. She was not surrendering her freedom. She was embracing a partnership, a love that required no pretense, only trust. One evening, as the horizon blazed with gold and crimson, Jonah found Emily on the porch, a letter in her hand. She looked at him, eyes shining with something new. Certainty, perhaps. Or hope. "You've come a long way," he said softly. Emily smiled, folding the letter and setting it aside. "And I've learned something important," she said. "Some journeys aren't about where you go, but who you let walk with you." Jonah extended his hand, the same hand that had reached for hers weeks ago. This time she didn't hesitate. She placed her palm in his, feeling the warmth and strength, the promise of everything yet to come. And together, they watched the sun sink below the plains, hearts and hands intertwined, ready to face whatever the future might bring, because love, true and steadfast, had a way of turning strangers into family and a journey into a home.